Hey everyone, welcome to Sunny Commutes, a podcast where I combine the worlds of web development and business and share my experiences. This is podcast episode 55, where I'll actually be revisiting a topic that I did in the very first episode of this podcast about a year ago. So June 29th is actually the anniversary, which is pretty cool. But I talked about burnout. If you're unfamiliar with what burnout is, it's essentially when you overwork yourself almost to the point of exhaustion. And this is not something that a lot of people talk about, but it's very common. And I want to revisit it to just bring up awareness again. And myself having gone through it a couple times or have come close to it, I'm getting close to figuring out kind of the some of the key aspects of it. How to prevent it and how to get back from burnout or after you've burnt out. And, I haven't posted an episode in about a month. So, I think it makes sense for me to, from the things that I've gone through recently with lack of motivation and not having worked on side projects and whatnot in this podcast as much as I've been wanting to. So, I've come across a couple of things that I think are interesting and hopefully helpful to other people, because like I said, it's a very common thing, but a lot of people don't like to talk about it because, who wants to, not talk about their successes, but their failures or the struggles that they have to go through to get to a certain point. So let's just jump right into it. So I think I've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 things. So it comes down to really is motivation, health, both physical and mental health, and then just the realization that maybe you're not as passionate about the project idea anymore. And this is for really anything, but for me personally, usually if I have an app idea or a website I want to work on, that's typically what I'll burn out about. So, but you can apply this to really anything. But yeah, sometimes you might want to pivot or change the idea or project that you're working on. So let's jump into all of these 3 things. First is motivation. So this is really interesting because when you think about it, when you get an idea, you get really excited about building it and planning out everything and, and really jumping right into it on that first day that you think about the idea, right? So when you get that new project, you're super excited. And for the first couple days, weeks, maybe that whole month, you're super productive. And that excitement, that initial excitement that you have, just, envisioning essentially the complete project, right? So you have that idea, but you're really envisioning once it's complete and kind of being in that time frame in which, cool, you've released it. And now you want to, push it out and see people using it and stuff, right? And so that excitement at the beginning to get it out there is what keeps pushing you, and thus the motivation, right? So you have the motivation to work on it every single day. Now, obviously, that motivation does not stay, and it slowly declines. Now, and that's kind of natural, and there's ways in which you can not get too excited so that your motivation kind of stays, doesn't decline too much. So essentially you kind of spread your motivation and you think about it more realistically, you break up your tasks and stuff. But this is kind of just how it is, right? Super excited in the beginning. And it tends to be where you're also excited in the middle and the end. But the parts in between those, you just lose a lot of motivation. You might want to work on different projects. If you're one of those people, I used to be like this as well, where I would get excited about one project and then I'd get bored in the middle of working on it. Then I'll start a new project. I'm like, oh, I haven't redesigned my personal site in a while. Let me go ahead and work on that. That sounds more fun than the current thing that I'm working on, right? But the most important thing is executing on your ideas and finishing them. So if you have a lot of projects that go undone, this is one of those things that it's really hard to do. So you might not burn out, but you might not complete any projects that you have. So it's really important to stay motivated on a single thing. And this is also different if you're working on a project by yourself. So if you have a solo project or like a team project. So if you're working on a project by yourself, there's different ways that you can stay motivated. So one, you can find other people or just like share on social media with, throughout the different like features that you complete, just throughout different milestones. You'll be able to share that, share like a screenshot or just maybe the idea of, like in the middle of it, build it out, and then you share and see like, hey, is anyone else think this is a good idea, or should I complete this part? What do you guys think? That sort of thing. And just seeing other people's reactions on it, and just being able to share your progress and having other people get excited about it. It's almost like doing like these small releases, and just seeing people's reaction and feedback on it will get you excited enough to finish it and move on to the next task. And team projects, it's a little bit easier because you're already working with other people. So in this case, you will want to just motivate each other. Have ideally you'll have like some sort of group chat or something, and you can motivate each other by just showing like the work that you completed on something. So break it up amongst each other, and you have your own thing. And once you finish a piece of something, you share it. Like, this is what I worked on, this past couple days or this weekend, and and they'll react to it, and you'll feel excited again, and you'll work on the next thing, right? And you might discuss about like some planning stuff. You might find ways to improve some things, and it's just essentially each other's work becomes contagious in a sense where if you see someone else that has completed something, you're like, oh man, let me I haven't done anything yet, so let me go ahead and complete my part. And so you're kind of just trying to motivate each other through your own work. Now, this is definitely a lot tougher if the project that you're working on you want to keep a secret. And in this case, you can't really share on social media. And if it's a solo project, you can't really share with like anyone else, right? Now, typically you'll be able to find a good friend or someone that you don't mind sharing it with, and so that's ideal. But also you can find just certain groups online. Like, I've actually joined a Facebook group recently called The Digital Era, and there's a bunch of creatives, entrepreneurs, developers, a whole diverse group of people there. And while I can't talk about my own project specifically, just seeing what other people are working on, doing this podcast and sharing, and seeing like what other people are doing with theirs and what sort of stuff they're creating, different motivation and like, different articles that are shared, just a whole slew of things, and seeing kind of a community of people that are going through the same thing as you, going through the struggles to, develop and complete a project, or just getting some content out there, whatever it might be. And while you're not sharing your own specific thing, you're still working on it. You might be able to share certain like aspects of it, right? So burnout is, a topic that I shared on there. And so things like that, you can share things not specific about your project, but the things around it that are more generic, but things that you're learning. So that definitely helps. So it really just comes to like being social and like finding other people to provide you with motivation, I guess. And so also part of motivation, and something that, like why that decline initially happens, is due to obstacles, right? You have this idea in the beginning, and you're not really envisioning typically the obstacles that will be coming ahead. And so you're working on it, everything's great, and you come across a problem. If it's like an application, you get an error and it's like a really pesky one, takes you a couple days to figure it out. Maybe you don't figure it out in those couple days, so like, you're not completing features, and so you have to focus on just fixing this bug, and that's not fun, right? Especially if you're working on this on your free time. You want majority of that time to be fun, and you're passionate about the idea. You hopefully also passionate about building it out, like that part's fun too. But if you come across obstacles in building it, then those can be very demotivating. Actually, I have an interesting analogy for this. I'm not sure how well this will work, but think of like a driving car analogy, where you're driving car and you know where the I'm missing the words, the destination, like you know where you're going to be heading, and you're driving across, and then you come across a dead end. Now maybe you did know there was a dead end there, maybe you didn't. Now the fact that that dead end is there doesn't mean that you can't meet your destination, right? You can still drive to your destination, but you have to go through it a different way. So drive around the dead end, find a different path, but you know for sure that there's still a way to get to your destination. So this obstacle, you have to consider it that way, where, you know, yes, it might be demotivating, the fact that you have to get around it, but if you consider the fact that there is a way around it, that you will be able to meet your end goal and continue on through, hopefully motivates you enough to just, you know, sit down, get through it, knowing that once you're done, then you can continue working on features again. And when it comes to like software development, like fixing bugs is actually really good. Like the more bugs that you fix throughout the process of building out that the first release is actually really good, because you know that users are not going to be coming across those bugs. So fixing them early on is definitely beneficial. Now the next thing to help with motivation, and this is really big, so breaking up tasks into smaller ones, which will allow you to make small wins. So this is really beneficial, because this really works best like in practice. Like thinking about it, it's like not a big deal, but in practice, just checking off different tasks is just psychologically something that brings you motivation, brings you like that rush of just good energy, and it allows you to continue to the next task. Now, if your tasks are really big, you're not going to be checking them off as quickly, and so you're going to be feeling like you're not making as much progress. But break it up in a way in which you complete at least one task a day, and that way you can say, okay, I'm going to do this and that for the day, and once you actually complete them, like make them doable. And so once you actually complete them, just psychologically clicking a checkbox or like checking it off on paper, whatever works best for you, is something that will, you know, keep that motivation going. And then finally, like just changing the environment where you work. If you're in a single place, often like if you're at your desk or places in which is not associated with, like, basically if you work in like either in a bed or like on a couch or something, those places are associated with relaxing, so you're not gonna typically get a lot of work done. But also if you're working at your desk a lot, that also can be demotivating, because it's, you know, you need to change your environment sometimes to be able to just I don't know, it's been beneficial to me, so I don't know exactly how to explain why, but it's probably something else that's psychological as well, just getting a different change of the place around you. And how I typically don't like to work in like noisy places like coffee shops or anything like that, but sometimes you might want to go you know, one day a week, just to be able to, you know, see other people, or like just work in a different area, you know, maybe work outside. Having the sun maybe can energize you as well. So that's something that's been kind of beneficial for myself. Now let's move on to health. So, you know, so that's the motivation part, and I think like I'll do a recap at the end of this. So with health, with physical health, not really much to say there, but if your body, like going back to the car analogy, if your car doesn't have enough gas, or you know, you haven't had an oil change or something like that, then you're not going to be able to go to your destination. So you need to take care of the car, right? So in the same way, you need to take care of your body so that you don't feel sluggish, you feel energized, so you're able to physically get the work done. Now, I think mental health is actually more important in this case because, if you have a lot of negative energy, you're not going to feel motivated, and see how it kind of plays back. So you're not going to feel motivated to do the work that you need to do. And this can be like just different friends or something that maybe are giving you off negative energy. They're, as you talk with them, they're not giving you just, they're not just saying positive things about, maybe you're sharing the project with them and they're not saying positive things about it in a non-constructive manner. And so you need to do what you need to do to be able to remove the aspects of your life that are causing issues and not giving you positive energy. So surround yourself with like good friends and family. But yeah, that's something that a lot of people I don't think talk about because it's health. It's not something that's typically associated with like entrepreneurship. Everyone's all about that hustle and just working like insane amount of hours to get something done. But sometimes you actually do need to sit back and like think about your health aspects, and if you do need a break, like that's fine too, right? Because you don't want to work so much where you burn out and then you're kind of forced to take a break. Whereas if you take small breaks when you need to, you can keep going and and complete that project sooner. And then finally, this part's kind of interesting. So, and I've actually done this on multiple projects. So sometimes you do lose passion on a certain idea, and this is either before you finish it or you have released it but you're not seeing the number of users that you were expecting. Like it's just not working out, and instead of just keeping that project alive, like sometimes the fact that it's not going so well and you've tried multiple things already, there's no point, like there's nothing to motivate you there to keep it going. So it's kind of just sitting there. Now, you don't have to close things necessarily. You can pivot to a different idea. It could be in the same industry or completely different. Actually, I have this another topic I'm going to do in an episode, the idea of recycling brands. And so, instead of completely like taking a brand and shutting it down, you can refresh it and give it a new idea, or just make it a new business altogether, but keep the same brand. This way you're essentially not spending a lot of time on the branding aspect. You're taking some of the good ideas, especially if it was like a good brand in terms of design and the name and everything. Take that and then pivot to a different idea, a different strategy. And this way, and this is obviously important if you're passionate about that new idea, so you're motivated about the change itself. And so this way, you take something you weren't passionate about, now you're passionate about again. So sometimes, and this is really tough because obviously you've spent so many months on a certain idea, on a certain project, you released it, and then the idea of like having to take it down, admitting failure is not something a lot of people want to do. But if you do this sooner than later, you might be able to pivot, keep the same brand but a different idea that you're more passionate about, learn from your mistakes, and then get that new project going. So those are the three things, and I'll probably revisit this later on, but yeah, so essentially I'll just do a quick recap. So motivation, find other people, share your progress, and if you're working with a team, let each other's work be contagious and get each other motivated. Get through obstacles. Gave the driving car analogy. I don't know if it's good or not, but just get to the destination while getting around the obstacles, knowing that you can still get to there. Break up the tasks into smaller ones so you can make small wins. Change the environment that you might be working in, and then focus on your physical, mental health. Surround yourself with just good energy. And if it's not working out, just pivot or change ideas, change businesses. And yeah, so again, this is something that I'm sharing like from personal experience. I've had to I've gone through burnout multiple times, different projects that have failed, and a lot of people just do simply quit, but I still have the goal and the passion in mind that I have to, or I want to get something out there that a lot of people are using, and just find some way to contribute and get something useful out there. And then just seeing, growing something that I've built and getting people to use it, and getting feedback and improving on it and things like that is something I'm still really passionate about. So I'll continue to do it, and you learn new things on the way, which is really cool. So if you have burnt out, or if you feel like you're going through it, hopefully these are some things that can help you out. And just know that if you keep going, if you have your eye on the destination that you're trying to get to, no matter how many obstacles or failures are throughout there, it's still possible to get to the destination. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And that's pretty much it. So make sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice. I actually found out it's recently on Spotify, and it's also on Google Podcasts, which is a new podcasting platform. And I also do a video version of this on YouTube. So that's Sunny Singh TV on YouTube, Sunny Commutes Podcast everywhere else. And you can also follow me if you want to give feedback or any suggestions for new topics. So Sunny Singh IO, that's SUNNYSINGHIO on Twitter. Also on the Anchor app, you can send a call in, and I can feature that in a future episode as well. So download the Anchor app, and you can call in on there. So thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.